Often talked about on the channel and seen as perhaps one of the most iconic movie cars out there, alongside with the Batmobile and the Ghostbusters Ecto-1. The Pursuit Special / Interceptor from the Mad Max series is one of those cars that has continued to grow in popularity over the years, and seen by many as one of the finest examples of muscle cars from Australia. It had once been suggested that this car in fact was the representation of evil, and one of the biggest reasons that took Max to the dark side of his persona. The exploration of this idea can be discovered through several scenes throughout the series, though there may be one scene in particular that was deleted from the original film that may hold the key as to what exactly this car represented, and if in fact it was the personification of evil. Within the divisions of the MFP, the police vehicles would often be given certain ranks and designations, that of Pursuit, Interceptor, and Pursuit Special. When we first meet Max in the film, he's seen driving an Interceptor XB 4-door sedan, said to originally have been a 1974 GT XB with a 351 V8 engine, at stock producing somewhere between 300 and 350 horsepower. The standard Pursuits and Interceptors were given the yellow paint scheme, with red and blue striping, and were often 4-door sedans. What we did also get a glimpse of was the first Pursuit Special driven by the character of the Knight Rider, which was a stolen MFP vehicle as a 2-door Holden HQ Monaro, which although wasn't black, was in a darker paint scheme in a midnight blue. It was soon after this opening chase did we the audience and Max get introduced to what was shown as a still incomplete Pursuit Special vehicle deep within the depths of the MFP garage. In the world of Mad Max, by this stage, during the fall of society, it's basically shown that the V8s were being discontinued due to the scarcity of oil and fuel consumption, which among its varying titles, one of which being the last of the V8s, this car in particular was custom built for Max himself, who was at the time seen as the most effective law enforcement officer of the main force patrol, and given a black on black paint scheme, which oddly enough the original car itself, when first picked up, which was a 1973 Ford Falcon XB GT with its stock V8 351 engine, similar to that of Max's yellow 4-door XB, the car itself was originally polar white with a black stripe, and through inspiration of producer Byron Kennedy, who basically came up with a blueprint of how the car should look, requested the appearance of this car to be given a more modified front end, rear and roof spoilers, side zoomy pipes, and a wind supercharger, along with its new black on black paint scheme. What could also play in effect with this new dark presentation of the XB, offered to Max as an incentive to stay on the MFP, given the fear that he might resign, as further detailed in the original novelization of the film, that his life expectancy, based on previous stats of main force officers within the MFP, he had far exceeded that of his original expectations of survival, and the car was secretly offered as an incentive for him to remain. Though not seen throughout the rest of the film, the Pursuit Special would not make another appearance till after the slaying of Max's wife and child, when we see Max finally go mad and re-don from head to toe his black leather MFP uniform. Do we see him make his way into the depths of the garage of the MFP headquarters, where perhaps in a conscious or unconscious style of film editing, as we see Max walk into the garage, his image fades and he vanishes in the darkness, only to re-emerge in the Pursuit Special. This can be seen as Max's vanishing point, where throughout the remainder of the film, and up until the Pursuit Special is destroyed in its sequel, has Max fully embraced the dark side of his persona, that which was his biggest concern as expressed earlier on in the film, where his fear was he was going to turn into the types of terminal crazies he was pursuing. This scene could also be interpreted as Max wandering down into the depths of hell itself to take back the weapon that he would use to get his revenge. It is from this point on we no longer see Max emit any other emotion other than pure hatred and vengeance. It should be noted at this point that although the car was altered and given its black on black paint scheme, there was still a hint of some of the white polar interior of the XB, that of the roof lining, where everything else from the console to the leather seats were all completely blacked out. This is something that would also play up in Mad Max 2. When the original film comes to its climax, we see Max still is emotionally dead inside, and he closes his eyes as he continues on down the asphalt and into the unknown. Unlike Max, who came out of this film by the end severely damaged, the black on black, despite almost having several head-on collisions within the film, emerged by the end completely unscratched and unscathed, and pristine as it was first presented. And even though it gave Max the vengeance he had sought, it seemed by the end of the film that he was no better than what he was before, and an empty shell of what he once was. Come the second film, when we are reintroduced to Max and the Pursuit Special, now referred to as the Interceptor, or the last of the V8 Interceptors as technically referenced to. Several years have passed since the events of the first film, and Max is seen with the scars as best displayed throughout his uniform damage, as one sleeve is missing from his leather jacket, and is now wearing a leg brace where his left kneecap had been shot off. The Pursuit Special itself is not exactly damaged, but has been seen to be modified now to more represent this new world that we are shown. Muddied up and gritty, additional fuel tanks added, and its front lower spoiler removed for better clearance on the rough terrains in the Australian outback. The interior itself is the one biggest modification, one could argue, where the once pristine XB GT interior has now been gutted out, save for the front driver's seat and dashboard, where the center console and carpet has been removed, along with the passenger and rear seats, and has now been integrated with the roll bar for better protection. The other biggest omission, as the Pursuit Special Interceptor is now completely black on black, with any trace of white completely removed, somewhat reflective of Max's now adopted persona, where he seems to be devoid of any emotion, and his only focus is to keep his Pursuit Special on the road. It is here in this opening chase do we finally see that the Pursuit Special does get damaged, and its once modified Monza-style Arcade paint front end completely destroyed, giving the car a much more gritty, hard-edged appearance. What we are shown in this second film is Max's main and only priority now is to keep his vehicle on the road, where he is ready to trade his life to make a deal just to get the fuel he needs to keep the car on the road. After delivering a rig to be given to a group of survivors who are looking to escape the wasteland with their fuel to head to paradise, Max is given the offer to join with them in exchange for one last drive on the road behind the big rig, where instead Max chooses to opt out, return to his Interceptor, and escape this fortified compound surrounded by a gang led by the Lord Humongous, hell-bent on obtaining the fuel and killing all those within the compound. It is not until after his failed escape where we see the character of Wes, played by Aussie actor Vernon Wells, who is able to take out Max and destroy the Interceptor, where it is seen crashing and later being completely destroyed when a booby trap is set off. Again, this leads back to something that where Max is now seen as so in need and so desperate to keep his car on the road that he has in fact planted a self-destruct device in the vehicle, showcasing that if he cannot keep it himself, he would rather see it destroyed. It is after this moment where inexplicably, although being rescued by the gyro captain, played by Bruce Spence, do we see Max's attitude completely change, and he begins to gain back some of the humanity he had lost. Although not seen making an appearance in the third installment of the Mad Max franchise, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, it has later been retconned that the camel truck that Max was being towed in was not his actual replacement for the Interceptor, but in fact a cargo vehicle used to collect parts to recreate his beloved Pursuit Special, which would once again make an appearance in the fourth installment of Mad Max Fury Road, this time starring Tom Hardy in the role of Max, where within the first 5 minutes of the film, we see the Interceptor once again destroyed, though its presence is shown later on as it has been modified once again into a now steel-coloured version of itself known as the Razor Collar, and with one final brief appearance in the fifth installment, which plays as a prequel to Fury Road, in the 2024 Furiosa, the black on black has not been seen as prominent as it was in the second film. The argument now comes into play. Given Max's greed for his black on black, given his continued desire to keep it going, to keep it restored, reflective of his own vanity perhaps, along with his tattered MFP uniform of the man he once was, the last of the V8 Interceptors could be seen as the final visage of the life he once had. There is one key moment in the original film that was deleted that makes a brief appearance in the opening intro of the second film that could lay clues to what exactly the Pursuit Special represented for Max, and for us the audience. After he has killed the tow cutter, we see Max continue on driving throughout the night as he fades in and out of consciousness as the scene fades to day. In the original script of the story, and as was filmed, there was a scene interjected between these two moments, where Max makes his way onto the side of the road and parks by a water creek, where he passes out and falls asleep. The scene plays out as scripted. Tied to Max's sleeping face, daylight, pulled back to frame the car window. The sound of a passing car, he wakes. The sun warms his face. The sounds of birds and bush insects. It is mid-morning. POV Max. A quiet spot by a bridge. Running water. Sparkle effect. Resume Max. The sound of flies. It's a good few moments before he remembers the real world. He looks down at his arm and leg. POV. Max tied on his arm. The serous fluid oozing from his wounds is caked hard. The arm is covered with flies. Dissolve. External. Long and whole scene. The creek. The black car is parked by a creek. Willow trees. Running water. Max is standing in the water washing himself. Dissolve. Medium on Max, tracking. He is sitting on a rock, facing away from us. He is washed. He has managed to strap his broken arm to his chest and dress his punctured knee. Track to him slowly and pan up to accept his face. All things considered, he seems okay. He looks across to the black car. Dissolve. Although we never get to see this scene in its completion, the snippets that we do see, one of which being in colour, in what was said to be a promotional 1970s Japanese reel of the film, the most commonly recognised moment of this scene is shown in the opening of the montage of Mad Max 2, as the camera pans up to Max's face as he is clearly seen in pain. But there also seems to be some form of conflict within him, though in this camera angle it is not shown what he is looking back at. It is revealed through the original script that Max is indeed looking at the black on black, as it is perhaps showing him that he still has unfinished business to do, as the pursuit of Johnny the boy is all that is needed now to complete his revenge. In the context of the film, away outside of the black on black, this is the last moment of emotion that we do see on Max, before completing his final act of revenge. Given the conflict shown within Max, his expression could be considered as to whether or not he is struggling with the idea of continuing his pursuit. This is the moment that could be argued where the pursuit special is in fact the personification of evil, and is luring and tempting Max to finish the job and kill the last of those who destroyed his life. It is this moment and several others as mentioned in the second film that does beg to question, was the pursuit special / interceptor of the Mad Max franchise actually seen as evil? And was it in a way a form of Max selling his soul in order to get that revenge that he wanted? Although this answer is never fully given, it does give speculation and different meaning to this one-of-a-kind movie car, which although is loved by many and desired as one of the ultimate muscle cars in Australian history, this movie car could indeed be seen as an evil representation. It's all a matter of perspective and point of view, and an argument that could indeed hold merit.